Bran's clumsy laughter drifted up from the godswood, a thin ribbon of sound that rose through the pale morning fog, curling across Winterfell's high ramparts. Lord Eddard Stark stood alone on the battlements, his gloved hands resting upon the frost-slick stone, eyes fixed on the unseen horizon, where gray sky and grayer land blended into one indistinct smear. Beneath the smell of damp lichen and cold iron lay the rust-tinged scent of ravens. 3 had arrived before dawn, black feathers still crusted with snowmelt, royal seals unbroken save by Maester Luwin's careful hand. The first 2 carried routine messages, grain tallies from White Harbor, an inquiry from Lord Glover concerning timber for new ships. Yet the 3rd bore the stamp of a crowned dragon in red wax, its edges impressed so deeply that the parchment beneath had puckered. Ned had broken it himself in the quiet pre-dawn shadows of his solar, and the world had shifted like spring ice cracking over a river. Inside the parchment, written in an ornate, trembling hand that seemed almost brittle with age, lay a summons from King Aerys II Targaryen. The Mad King, as men whispered, had dismissed his hand. Lord Chelsted had, according to rumor, chosen a fiery end rather than betray some hidden secret, and now Aerys commanded Lord Eddard Stark of Winterfell to come south and bear the burden of hand of the king. The letter was formal, dripping with courtesy so thick it reeked of desperation. Yet between each flourished line, Ned heard an echo of flames crackling, saw shadows dancing on stone walls slick with oil, and felt an old chill that had nothing to do with northern wind. Footfalls crunched behind him. Catelyn's voice, soft but unyielding, joined the wind. "You have not slept." "I could say the same for you," he answered without turning, though he sensed her cloak brush his elbow. The weirwood leaves whispered overhead, whispering of old gods and older vows, and Ned wondered if they too had read the dragon-sealed parchment. "You mean to accept?" It was not a question. Cat had always known him too well for doubts. He sighed, mist spilling from his lips. A king's command is not so easily refused, least of all by a lord who keeps the memory of oath-breaking close to heart. Father followed King Jaehaerys when he marched against Dorne. Brendan answered when Prince Rhaegar called banners to subdue the Stepstones. "I am their blood. Can I do less?" "Then, you are also father to our children," she reminded him. Fingers tightening around his arm. "And the Mad King is not his grandsire. They say he burns men alive for slights imagined in fever dreams. They say the Red Keep reeks of tallow and smoke." "They say many things," Ned murmured, but his mind drifted to the words unspoken in Aerys's parchment. "Traitors circle my throne like wolves. Come south and be my shield." Wolves, Ned reflected, knew well the scent of fear. Cat's silence stretched, then broke. "If you ride south, I would come with you." Ned turned at last. Snowflakes clung to strands of auburn hair escaping her hood, bright against her pale skin. He brushed them away, a gesture half tender, half plead. "Your place is here. Robb must learn to rule the north in my stead, and he will need his mother's counsel. Our son is 14, Ned. Too young for such weight." "Too young, yet it may not be for long," he said, glancing again toward the invisible horizon. "The realm trembles. If it should break, the north must stand steady." "Then," Catelyn closed her eyes, as though listening for distant thunder. "Swear you will write. Swear you will not bear every burden alone?" He kissed her brow. "I swear." 2 weeks later, the last of Winterfell's banners snapped in a ragged farewell as Eddard Stark turned his horse southward. The great castle dwindled behind him, white walls fading into frosted pines, until only the memory of home remained. Echoes of laughter in stone halls, the pound of training swords in the yard, the hush of the godswood. Ahead stretched leagues of cold earth, rivers locked beneath ice, and passes where wind howled like hungry direwolves. At every village he paused long enough for fresh mounts, exchanging curt greetings with lords minor and small folk alike, his mind already straining toward the political labyrinth that awaited beyond the neck. Each mile chipped another layer of northern frost from his heart, replacing it with the wary steel required of a courtier. Crossing the neck proved arduous. Torrential rains had turned the causeways to muck, and his retinue splashed through waist-deep bog water while midges marked their passing with swollen bites. Yet Ned welcomed the hardship. The sodden air masked the copper tang of fear that had shadowed him since the ravens. Hardship he understood. In hardship, a man measured himself plainly, without courtly pretense. When Moat Caelan's crumbling towers vanished behind river mists, the land softened, rolling into green downs. Farms sprawled across gentle hills, the scent of tilled earth rising to mingle with that of wildflowers and horse sweat. By the time they reached the Green Fork, spring had taken firm hold. Apple blossoms drifted across the road like pale snow, and Ned's northern furs felt heavier than mail. He shed them piece by piece, as though stripping away identities. Son of the North, Lord of Winterfell, father, husband. What remained must be something harder, colder, suited for the Red Keep's serpentine corridors where daggers of gilded smiles cut deeper than steel. At the Trident, they met Lord Hoster Tully's envoys, a gesture of respect to the Handgelect, who also happened to be his son-in-law. They offered wine, fish pies, polite jests about the North's chill. Ned returned each courtesy, yet his thoughts drifted to Catelyn nursing a child within stone walls hundreds of leagues away. At night he lay awake beside riverbank campsites, listening to unfamiliar frog song, wondering if Bran still climbed the broken tower against Maester Luwin's advice, or if Arya still practiced needlework with more needle than work. South of Harrenhal, black wings beat across the sky. Ravens, dozens, perhaps scores, all wheeling toward King's Landing as though drawn by some terrible flame. Superstition whispered that ravens fled fires to feast on corpses yet to cool. Ned watched their flight, lips drawn tight. King's Landing rose before him at last, a sprawl of sour red rooftops and steam-slick alleys, its walls crawling with banners bearing the three-headed dragon. The city stank of tanneries, offal, sea rot, and unspent storms that brooded above the great bay. Yet beneath the odor, Ned sensed something subtler, like the taste of metal before lightning, the smell of fear that the small folk wore like a second tunic. Beggars went silent when gold-cloaks passed. Vendors spoke in hushed tones, as though even haggling might be treason if misheard. Within the Red Keep, the air warmed, perfumed with incense that failed to mask scorched undertones. Torches burned at every third pillar though daylight streamed through high windows. Guards in red-lacquered armor lined corridors, their eyes shifting like cats in the dark. Ned's boots echoed along marble floors vined with something resembling blood. He counted columns, archways, potential choke points, habits honed in frost-rimmed wars, while courtiers in brocade whispered behind embroidered sleeves. Grand Maester Pycelle greeted him first, stooped beneath the weight of his chain. The old man's beard shook as he bowed, strands yellowed with age. "Lord Stark," he wheezed. "His Grace awaits you in the throne room, though." A glance slid sideways, nervous. "The hour is early." "Madness keeps strange hours," Ned replied, so softly that only the maester heard. Pycelle paled beneath liver spots. The throne room doors groaned open. Firelight licked black iron. And there sat Aerys II, King of the Andals, the Rhoynar, and the First Men, his uncut beard tangled with ash, his eyes twin embers burning above sunken cheek. The Iron Throne's blades framed him like a nest ready to pierce its own occupant. At the king's feet lay a pile of fresh rushes. Ned thought he saw smoke curling from them. "Kneel," whispered Jaime Lannister, resplendent in Kingsguard white, his voice devoid of warmth. The last time Ned had seen the young lion, Jaime had laughed atop a tournament charger. Now his laugh had died somewhere behind those green eyes. Ned knelt. The chill of northern snow seemed a dream compared to the heat radiating from the throne. Aerys' voice crackled like logs. "Rise, Lord Stark. No, rise, my hand. If hand you prove true, will you be my shield against plots? Will you tear traitors from my midst like limbs from a frozen corpse?" Ned's mouth tasted of iron, and for a heartbeat he remembered his vow to Catelyn. Right home, bear no burden alone. Yet the realm's burden already pressed upon him like mail soaked in ice water. He rose, I will serve your grace with honor. Aerys barked laughter. Honor. You Starks choke on the word. But perhaps frozen honor burns given time. He gestured, and Pycelle hobbled forth bearing a rod of office forged from black steel. Its head the three-headed dragon carved in ruby. Ned accepted it, fingers closing about metal cool despite the throne room's oven heat. The king leaned forward, beard twitching. Find the vipers, Lord Stark. They slither everywhere, in my council, in the city, even within my Queensguard. His gaze flicked toward Jaime, who stared ahead like a statue. Cut off their heads, bring me their tongues, and you shall keep yours. So began Eddard Stark's first hour as Hand. Long days unfolded like ravens' wings. Each morning Ned gathered reports. Whispers of food riots in Flea Bottom, soldiers gone unpaid, treasury vaults echoing with emptiness, Septa screams muffled behind locked doors. He walked the stony bowels beneath the keep, where Aerys's pyromancers brewed wildfire in green glass jars that pulsed like sickly hearts. He rode the city streets in plain cloak, to hear the small folks' grumblings firsthand, and returned each evening to council chambers, where lords argued over debts like carrion crows pecking marrow. Lord Varys, the master of whisperers, arrived without sound, a plump spider with powder-scented silk robes and a smile that never reached his eyes. The realm has gained a northern star, he purred. Ned answered with the cool stillness of deep winter nights. He saw in Varys a man who wore truths like costumes, discarding them when threadbare. Yet even spiders served purpose. They spun webs to catch flies, and Ned planned to offer them bait. Ser Barristan Zelmy, white cloak immaculate, spoke little yet watched Ned with something like cautious hope. Grand Maester Pycelle rattled and wheezed, ever eager to please the king. Lord Carlton Chelstead's replacement as Master of Coin was a Taroshi whose beard gleamed cobalt. He spent coin as though dragons minted copper daily. Lord John Connington, the king's newest favorite, stalked corridors scented with wine and arrogance. And above them all loomed Aerys, rarely seen, often heard at night screaming from the throne room where torches burned past moonset. Ned did not sleep. Instead he read ledgers, raven scrolls, treatises on Wildfire's properties, each page another stone in the invisible rampart he must raise. He wrote letters north, to Caitlin, to Lord Wyman Manderley, to Benjen at the Wall. Yet the words he dared commit to parchment spoke only of weather and harvests. For schemes he trusted parchment as one trusts wildfire in a nursery. Not at all. Quietly he cultivated allies. The City Watch, neglected and underpaid, found their wages met from coin. Ned gleaned by halting, needless tourneys. In return their new Lord Commander, a bluff man named Heron the Hull, drilled them hard and spoke well of the Hand. The smiths of the guild were commissioned to repair drainage in Flea Bottom, paid promptly, and soon their leaders offered Ned thick-fingered loyalty that smelled of forge smoke. Even the fishmongers of the Mud Gate discovered their levies reduced, and their guild master sent barrels of pickled herring north for the Lady of Winterfell. Petty favors, perhaps, but in a city starved of justice, such seeds sprouted swift. Meanwhile, Varys' little birds whispered of darker soils. Prince Rhaegar lingered at Dragonstone studying prophecy. Some said he contemplated a council of reform, others that he amassed men loyal to his own cause. Tywin Lannister remained at Casterly Rock, refusing to answer the king's summons. Across the narrow sea, exiled Blackfire pretenders raised coin from the Golden Company, and within King's Landing, merchants grumbled of the alchemists' guild hoarding wildfire beneath the Hill of Rhaenys. Ned listened, sifted, weighed. A quiet coup must be quieter than spider steps, slower than winter creeping south, and it must bleed without spilling blood, at least at first. To strike too soon was to court pyres. To wait too long was to watch the realm drown. He began with paper. Ledgers revealed coin owed to House Lannister for loans, funding Aerys' folly. Ned diverted a trickle of taxes northward, repaying debts incrementally to soften Tywin's ire. Quiet letters, bearing wax seals of direwolf and lion crossed mountains. Word returned that Lord Tywin would accept repayment, and perhaps speak further if the Hand traveled west come autumn. a potential ally, or at least a leash on a greater foe. Next, Ned invited Sir Arthur Dane, the Sword of the Morning, to supper alone. Over simple fare: salted trout, baked leeks, Dornish red poured sparingly. He spoke of honor, of duties to a king who had once been just. Arthur's violet eyes flicked to the door thrice, as though he expected spies to ooze under the threshold. But when Ned quoted the oath of the Kingsguard, to guard the king, his heirs, and the realm, the Dornish knight's gaze steadied. And when the king endangers realm and heir alike? Ned pressed softly. Arthur did not answer aloud, but his silence crackled like drawn dawn. Each thread woven strengthened the hidden tapestry. Yet Ned knew a tapestry unseen is easily burned. He required a mask of fealty so complete that none could doubt his newfound devotion. Thus he attended court daily, bowing low when Aerys descended, praising the king's wisdom in council, even endorsing a tax upon northern lumber, knowing full well that lumber shipments had ceased with winter thaws. In private, he arranged relief for craftsmen who would suffer that tax, their tongues grateful and tied by newfound coin. In moonlit passages he walked with Jaime Lannister. The young knight's japes rang hollow now. Beneath the golden hair Ned glimpsed a boy shackled to oaths he scarce understood when sworn. They spoke of sword forms, of differing weights of castle-forged steel versus Valyrian. But Ned listened to cadence more than words. From cadence he measured fear, pride, resentment, and he thought, here stands a dagger pointed at the king's back, crafted by oath yet honed by disdain. Weeks spiraled into months. Fleabottom saw bakeries reopened under royal charter, grain subsidized from Reach harvests, arranged through letters to an old foster brother of Catelyn's, Sir Medgar Tyrell, who in turn saw his modest debts forgiven. Gold cloaks patrolled with newfound purpose, clamping down on footpads yet turning blind eyes to covert meetings between certain fishwives and hooded men who bore hidden direwolves sewn into their sleeves. All the while wildfire stockpiles grew. Ned learned that Lord Rossart, head of the Alchemists' Guild, claimed breakthroughs that made wildfire burn even upon water. He reported such triumphs nightly to the king. Aerys listened enthralled, fingers twitching like talons eager to grasp green flame. Ned praised the discoveries publicly, even commending Rossart before council, while privately he instructed Sir Barristan to double the Kingsguard watch upon the Guildhall, and triple upon the vaults below the Red Keep. If the city were tinder, Ned meant to know every spark. One autumn evening, after a council session where Pycelle droned of trade balances, Prince Lewin Martell lingered as others filed out. "You Starks do not dance," he observed, folding slender hands. "Yet, you've stepped through vipers without being bitten." Ned studied the Dornishman's dark eyes, saw weariness deeper than desert wells. "Vipers," he said, "oft prefer their kin to foreign prey." Lewin smiled thinly. "Perhaps I tire of snake kin." Thus another thread braided itself. News from the north came seldom. Robb's first command of men during a skirmish against wildlings near the Shadow Tower. Sansa's blossoming into womanhood. Arya's defiance of septa lessons. Rickon's first steps across cold stone floors. Letters told their tales in Cat's steady hand, but parchment could not convey the lilt of Arya's laugh, or the softness of Bran's questions. Each missive reminded Ned of the price paid for each day south, yet also of the stakes should he fail. He folded those letters carefully beside maps of sewer routes beneath the Red Keep. Winter's breath arrived late that year, drifted thin over Blackwater Bay, settled upon rooftops like forgetting. In the small hall, Aerys dined upon honey-glazed quail, refusing to allow servants near with knives. He tore meat with his fingers, grease matting his beard. Between bites he spoke of traitors who poisoned wells, of burning thieves within the dragon pit as spectacle. Ned offered measured counsel. Punish thieves, yes, but build cisterns to improve water, thus denying poison room to spread. Aerys blinked, then laughed as though at jest. Yet next day cisterns were ordered built. The king's madness, Ned learned, swayed like a candle in draught, flame shivering but not yet snuffed. If he could shield that flame from gusts while redirecting its light elsewhere, perhaps he might spare the realm a conflagration. Secretly he compiled a ledger titled, simply, The reckoning. Names filled columns. Lords whose loyalty wavered, merchants who dealt in whispers, pyromancers whose ambition outstripped sense. Next to each he marked symbols. A dire wolf for those he could sway, a flayed man for those beyond redemption, a silent weirwood face for those yet unknown. And across the top, he penned a single line: "Fire consumes, but winter preserves." Beneath, he drew a bare, icy branch. Then he locked the ledger within a chest, sealed by northern runes, and entrusted its key to no man living. On the year's shortest day, Aerys requested private audience. They met in the gallery of tattered banners, where flakes of faded heraldry hung like dead moths. Candlelight gleamed upon the eunuch's powdered scalp. "My lord hand," Aerys began, voice hushed though no guard stood near. "Rumor reaches even the least of my birds that you explore the castle's lower depths by night." Ned said nothing. "Wildfire treats stone as it treats flesh," Aerys continued. "One spark in the wrong vault, and we may all roast in dragon's breath." "Then pray we keep the sparks contained," Ned replied. He saw curiosity flicker in Aerys like torchlight, and he wondered how many birds he must silence before winter's end. Yet he did not silence them, for birds carried seeds. Instead, he fed them crumbs of truth, laced with feigned ambition. Whispers spread that Lord Eddard Stark pursued mastery over wildfire for his own ends, perhaps to claim a dragon's legacy for the north. Aerys, upon hearing, ordered Ned to oversee all wildfire stores personally, trusting only the ice wolf who fears the cold. Thus was Ned granted keys to every vault. In those green glass tunnels he wore gloves soaked in vinegar, snuffing torches lest stray sparks ignite history. He mapped each cache, counted jars, studied the viscous fluid that glowed like drowned emeralds. And he devised contingencies. Sluices to flood lower tunnels with river water, collapsible passages braced by iron wedges that could be hammered free, sealed ducts to vent flames skyward in event of cataclysm. Still, every plan demanded men willing to act at nightmare's edge. For that Ned turned to the black cells. There he found Jeremy Riker, once of the Night's Watch, imprisoned for desertion after marching south to find his lost children. And Coral Quickaxe, a Mirish sellsword condemned for dueling a gold cloak. Ned offered pardon in exchange for loyalty sworn to the direwolf, not the dragon. Desperation forged fierce blades. In hidden practice yards beneath the Hand's Tower they trained under Sir Jory Castle, Ned's cousin, until sweat stank of iron. One brittle dawn, as frost silvered the courtyard statues, Prince Rhaegar returned to King's Landing with a small retinue. The city buzzed like a hive stirred by smoke. Small folk pressed against procession lines to glimpse the silver-haired prince, whose songs charmed maidens at Harrenhal, and whose harp's notes could hush field thrushes. Yet Ned watched other eyes. Burghers tallying numbers, gold cloaks noting positions, spiders gauging distances. Rhaegar's jewels glittered, but at his throat Ned saw a chain of black iron half hidden by cloak. No ornament, but link forged in penitence perhaps. That evening, at a feast held in the prince's honor, sweet wine flowed, and singers trilled praise. Aerys sat upon a dais draped in crimson, nails scratching wood like claws. Rhaegar knelt before him, but the king bade him rise only after 3 long heartbeats. The hall's torches flared, casting every face in restless gold. When Prince and Hand's eyes finally met, mutual recognition sparked. 2 drowning men glimpsing each other across icy water. Rhaegar inclined his head, politely distant. Yet later he sought Ned in the shadowed loggia, overlooking the fog-choked Blackwater. There words passed that would not be recorded in any chronicle. Of dragons asleep beneath mountains, of prophecies twisting like vines, of fathers lost to madness' grip. Ned spoke of winter's mercy, how snow buried rot to preserve what must endure. Rhaegar listened, and the slow tide of resolve seemed to lap behind his violet gaze. There was no pact sworn, yet from that night onward rumor claimed the prince lingered, often in the library where stale parchment outweighed gossip. Books of wildfire properties vanished, replaced by treatises on river engineering, and agricultural reform. Small things perhaps, but seeds nonetheless. The year turned. Spring banners fluttered atop the Red Keep, though true spring still lay months away. Eddard Stark walked the city walls, breath-forming ghosts in cold dawn. Below, the black water lapped against pilings bearing frost-rimed barnacles. He remembered nights in Winterfell when wind rattled shutters, and he had risen to soothe a crying Rickon, warmth of child's body against his chest. Here, the only cries were gulls seeking carrion. He felt the great weight of time pressing, as though a 1,000-ton keel carved through his soul. History's river was deep. He had set foot in its current, steering gently yet still unsure of rocks that lay ahead. To overthrow a king, even for realm's sake, was treason so vast it yawned like the maw of winter itself. But Ned saw no triumph in coronets dipped in wildfire, no honor in children burned as oathbreakers cheered. So he plodded on. Quietly, patiently, a lone wolf threading south among lions and dragons, waiting for the perfect silence to fall before the first snowflake lands. And beyond the walls of King's Landing, far across white-capped hills and frozen rivers, the north waited with bated breath, its heart beating in time with the slow, deliberate tread of a single man's purpose. The coup, when it came, would be quieter than snowfall, and just as inexorable. Indeed. Dawn bled across the city in dull rows as the Red Keep's bells tolled prime. Eddard Stark stood at the window of the Hand Solar, watching gulls ride the updrafts over Blackwater Bay, each white wing flashing pink where sunrise touched it. He had slept 3 hours perhaps, yet the mind behind his gray eyes felt sharper than honed ice. Today, the spider moved first. A parchment lay on his desk, its silk ribbon still damp with river mist. Aerys' handiwork delivered through a serving boy who swore he merely carried a tray of candied figs. In the cramped round script Ned now recognized as the eunuch's private hand, only 5 words were written. The kettle hums before boiling. No seal, no signature. Aerys chose riddles over clarity, but Ned deciphered enough. The king's madness spiraled toward crisis, and someone had stirred the waters. He burned the note, grinding the ash to powder between thumb and forefinger. Then, with deliberate calm, he tugged on a plain doublet of dark wool, belted ice smaller cousin, an unnamed sword forged for city wear, and strode out, cloak swirling like a night-colored banner. The small council convened in the Tower of the Hand's lower chamber that morning, a privilege Ned had insisted upon so Aerys' presence would not poison every meeting. Grand Maester Pycelle shuffled in first, clutching a ledger of tariffs. Lord John Connington followed, eyes bloodshot from tourney revels. Behind him strode Lord Bellis Coherys, the Taroshi master of coin, beard dyed cobalt and hung with silver bells. Sir Barristan Selmy took his place in silence, white cloak immaculate, though faint circles shadowed his eyes. Aerys arrived last, robe lavender today, perfume light as moth wings. Before any words were exchanged, Ned placed a sealed letter on the table. It bore his sigil and Tywin Lannister's golden lion side by side. Lord Tywin agrees to extend the crown a further loan, he said. Voice steady, on condition of repayment within 1 year and the reduction of interest on prior debts by half. The Rock will also supply grain to stabilize food prices in King's Landing. He allowed the words to sink in while Connington's jaw slackened. We have breathing room, if we spend it wisely. Pycelle beamed toothlessly. A most fortunate arrangement, my Lord Hand. The maester's chain rattled as he leaned forward, perhaps dreaming of coin for new laboratories and more costly elixirs. Coherys traced the lion rampant with a lacquered fingernail, expression sour. Lower interest meant fewer chances to skim. Aerys merely inclined his bald head. Ned continued. Lord Coherys, you will present a paired budget by sunset, prioritizing city watch wages, grain import subsidies, and repairs to the Western Aqueduct. Bells in the Taroshi's beard jangled in protest, but Ned's gaze pinned him. Sir Barristan, you will assign 2 additional Kingsguard to oversee grain convoys entering the city, to deter banditry and ensure fair harvest prices. Connington shifted. The Crownland's roads are safe enough. Unnecessary. Bandits arise where coin moves, Ned answered. And our enemies will strike soft targets if they cannot confront the throne outright. He let the warning hang. Pycelle coughed politely. Varys' painted lips curved a millimeter, as though savoring unseen strings tugged taut. Business concluded, Ned dismissed them. Only Varys lingered. A masterful stroke, the eunuch crooned when the door shut. A lion on a leash, a purse refilled. Yet lions have teeth. Teeth bite only when the jaw is free. Ned paced to the hearth, knelt to rekindle the dwindling fire. What news of this humming kettle? His Grace summons the Alchemists' Guild at dusk, to witness a demonstration unprecedented, or so Rossart boasts. Wildfire enough to make night bright as noon. In the dragon pit, Varys shivered theatrically. A cup of wildfire is spectacle. A lake is doom. Ned stirred embers until sparks arced skyward. Has Rossart moved additional jars from the guild hall? 100, perhaps more, ferried through the street of sisters under silken prayer that no lamp tumbles. The spider's eyes glittered. Tonight's display may ignite more than dragon's bones. Get me numbers by midday, Ned said. I will see those fairies waylaid under color of inspection, and the jars returned. He straightened. Tell your birds. The king's fury must be fed modestly, or it will consume the realm. Varys bowed. The birds will sing discreetly. The courtyard stones steamed under noon sun as Ned crossed to the armory. Clippers clanged. Sparks cascaded like summer gnats. Inside, Sir Jaime Lannister sparred with 2 squires, gold hair plastered to his brow by sweat. The Kingsguard's white cloak lay folded on a bench, tarnished with dust. Steel rang against steel in fevered rhythm. Ned watched until Jaime, noticing, dismissed the boys. Come to judge form, Stark. The lion wiped his brow. Or to preach northern discipline? Neither. Ned stepped to a rack and selected a blunted longsword. I came to test reflex. He saluted. Jaime's brows rose, but he retrieved a matching practice blade. They circled. Sunlight slanted through high slits, laying gold lines across grimy stone, like bars of some celestial prison. The first clash rattled Ned's arm to the shoulder. Jaime was faster, if not as strong. Blades sang, feet shuffled. They spoke between strikes, iron-tinged whispers. His Grace grows restless, Ned ventured, pivoting. His Grace is mad, Jaime replied. Perry riposted. And yet you guard him. I swore an oath. Jaime's blade darted, grazed Ned's ribs. And you? Swore loyalty too, Lord Hand. Ned riposted, forcing Jaime back. My loyalty is to realm as well as crown. Then our oaths align poorly, for the crown imperils the realm daily. Jaime's smile flickered brittle. They broke, blades lowered, chest heaving. What would you do, Ned asked quietly, if saving the realm required breaking your oath? Jaime's eyes flicked to the slits where sun met dust. That answer cost more than my honor. He sheathed the practice blade. And I've spent enough coin of honor already. Without another word he left, cloak tucked beneath his arm like a shroud. Ned had exhaled. A plume of white in hot air. Seeds sown. Twilight spilled violet across the city when barrels of wildfire jolted to a halt at the river gate. Gold cloaks blocked the wagons, citing an edict newly signed by the Hand, requiring inspection of all volatile cargo. Alchemists sputtered, but orders were orders. Under Brazier's glow, Captain Heron the Hull oversaw transfer of each green glass jar back to iron-banded crates. 2 inspectors, in mud-stained cloaks, Ricker and Quickaxe, loaded the crates onto different carts bound for a warehouse purchased that morning by Fishmongers' Guild. No record would link the crown to the seizure. Atop the battlements, Eddard Stark watched torches bob along the Street of Sisters, carrying stolen fire away from the dragon pit. The kettle would not boil tonight, yet steam enough remained to scald. Inside the Red Keep, King Aerys fumed. Ned stood before him as Pycelle droned excuses for the delay. Aerys' fingernails, overlong, tapped the arm of his throne. The sound rasped like beetles in a skull. "They sabotage my glory," the king hissed. "Traitors in steel masks, plotting to deny me light fit for dragons reborn." Ned bowed. "Your Grace, the City Watch acts only to ensure none may poison this celebration. With dawn, the guild may proceed safely." He met the king's fever-bright eyes. "Better one day's patience than the realm aflame." Aerys blinked, uncertain whether to snarl or smile. Jaime Lannister, standing guard, shifted weight. The tiny scrape of boot on marble echoed. The king's gaze darted to Jaime, then back. Finally he exhaled. "Very well, Dawn. But if any sabotage remains, Lord Rossart will test wildfire upon their flesh." Spittle gleamed on his beard. Afterward, Rossart cornered Ned outside the hall. The pyromancer's robes reeked of pine pitch. "You overstep, Stark. The substance obeys fire alone, not northern frost." "I serve the realm," Ned answered, voice like cold steel. "Pray your wildfire does likewise, or frost may snuff more than flames." Rossart's eyes narrowed. "Ice aspires to dragonfire? Folly." He swept away in a swish of oily cloth. Ned watched him go, wondering whether Rossart or Aerys would ignite first. Night deepened. In a disused cellar beneath the Street of Silk, a dozen men assembled. City Watch sergeants, guildmasters, 2 sellswords, and a silent hooded woman whose eyes gleamed like wet stone. They formed a rough circle around Ned, torches guttering. He spoke without flourish. "You are the Winter's Cloak now. Each of you swore to shield the city from madness. Tonight we removed flame from mad hands. Tomorrow we fortify sewers beneath the dragon pit with river gates. So if wildfire does spill, water will drown it." "In the manner?" a sergeant asked. "And if the king forbids?" "We obey, publicly." Ned's tone hardened. "But sewers are repaired daily. Stonework draws no eyes. Our loyalty is unseen." He unrolled a charcoal map of King's Landing, dots marking caches and gates. "Each gate will be braced by iron plugs keyed to cogs here, here, and here." He pointed. 3 turns floods the chamber with sweet water, cutting air from flame. The hooded woman spoke, voice low, accent of the Stormlands. "Who turns the cogs?" "I will. Or Wrecker if I fall." He met each face. "If wildfire lights, you shepherd small folk to the river wall. Spare lives, not buildings." A murmur of assent rippled. Torches hissed. Ned folded the map. In that hiss he heard the heart of the realm pounding, fragile, fervent, fearful. Rhaegar Targaryen walked the godswood of the Red Keep at second moonrise, moonlight limning white weirwood bark, like polished bone. Ned found him kneeling before the heart tree's pale face, hands pressed to soil. He waited until the prince rose. "I did not expect company," Rhaegar said, brushing leaf litter from his silvery cloak. "Nor I a godswood this far south," Ned replied. "Yet here we stand." They strolled beside the trickling pool. Frogs croaked softly, unmindful of kings and conspirators. Rhaegar broke silence. "I studied scrolls from Ashai. They speak of fire that sings in dragon's blood, of sacrifice forging a prince that was promised." His expression tightened. "My father hears only the fire. He forgets the promise." Ned halted beneath drooping willow leaves. "And what hear you, prince?" "Children crying, mothers wailing, a city choking on ash." Rhaegar's voice shook. "Prophecy is a puzzle, not a path. I fear my father mistakes it for marching orders." He faced Ned. "If Winter's Cloak must fall upon dragonfire, will the North spare dragonseed?" The question bore weight of dynasties. Ned chose words as a smith chooses hammer. "I will not see innocents burned, dragon or wolf. If fire threatens realm, I will smother it. But if dragon's blood turns back madness, winter will shield that blood." Rhaegar drew breath, shoulders easing. "Then we are allies in all but name. Names may come." Ned extended a hand. "Deeds first." Their clasp felt like forging steel, Fire meeting ice, neither melting nor shattering. Unseen among branches, a raven croaked once, then fell silent. Snow flurries arrived 2 days later, borne on a freak cold front from the north. King's Landing awoke beneath a dusting of white, rooftops powdered, gutters crusted. Small folk marveled. Some children had never seen snow. Ned strode the streets wrapped in gray cloak, warmth of home brushing his cheeks. Snow muffled city clamor, forging a hush perfect for secret deeds. At the Dragon Pit, workmen, guild masons under Ned's quiet employ, began repairs to foundation drainage, chipping mortar, installing iron sluices. Rossart objected, but Ned produced an order with the royal seal. Aerys had signed anything while ranting about traitors. Water pipes were laid, disguised as anchors for temporary scaffolding. By sundown, a subterranean reservoir from the Sweetwater River linked to cogs in 3 hidden alcoves, each reachable in minutes by a practiced runner. That evening, wildfire jars, fewer in number than before thanks to Ned's raid, were arranged for demonstration. The Mad King perched in a wooden gallery erected for his view, robed in scarlet and gold, oily beard woven with fire rubies. Lords and ladies shivered in furs, breath plumed like ghosts. Flames were promised, warmth lured them. Ned stood beside Jaime and Barristan, both cloaked in white. Rhaegar occupied a separate dais, flanked by Lewin Martell and Arthur Danetor. Moonlight silvered his hair. The ruby at his throat pulsed like a distant heartbeat. Rossart stepped forward, hands gloved in green silk. He gestured. Pyromancers ignited the first jar atop a stone plinth. Emerald flame whooshed skyward, a column of fury whose heat rolled across faces even at distance. The crowd gasped, half in awe, half terror. Aerys laughed, high bird shrill. Brighter, he screeched. Burn them brighter. More jars shattered under torches. The air rippled. Sparks drifted onto straw laid to heighten effect. Flame crawled. Hungry. Ned's eyes darted to the scaffolding. Steam valves sealed. Sluices closed. He calculated wind, distance to wildfire crates still on carts behind them, the slope of Dragon Pit floor. One stray ember. A spark landed on a cart's tarpaulin. Canvas smoldered. Ned's heart slammed. He moved. Jaime saw it too. Without hesitation, the Kingslayer, no, the Kingsguard, vaulted the barrier, sprinting. Ned followed. Barristan, a heartbeat behind. Jaime seized a blanket, smothered the ember. Ned yanked the tarp free, heaved it over the stone floor where it ignited harmlessly. Barristan directed squires to douse surrounding crates with sand. Above, Aerys's laughter faltered. "My guard flees glory," he snarled. Jaime froze, blanket smoking in his grip. Ned stepped forward, knees dusted green with wildfire residue. "Glory uncontained devours your grace. We preserve your spectacle for the morrow." He bowed, jaw clenched against surge of bile. Aerys' stare glimmered suspicion, but Rossart whispered reassurances. The king subsided, still muttering. Later, as torches were extinguished and lords filed out, Rhaegar approached Ned. "A hero's act earns heroes' enemies," he warned. Ned saw truth. Aerys' paranoia now fixed on the 3 who'd dashed his glory. "Enemies declare themselves by brandished steel," Ned replied. "We have seen such steel." He glanced at Jaime, who cleaned soot from cloak hem. Gold hair gleamed, but eyes were shadowed with something like shame or resolve. Letters arrived from Winterfell, carried by a hooded northern rider who braved snow-choked passes to the neck. Caitlin wrote of Bran's growth spurt, Arya's unruly fencing, Robb's budding command. She also reported raiders along the Skagos coast, ships bearing crimson sails. Skagosi rebels perhaps, or pirates hired to test northern defenses. Ned's blood cooled further. Enemies sought to prod strongholds while the hand's eye was south. He penned replies urging vigilance, sending coin to hire extra outriders, and promising return when duty allowed. He did not write of wildfire or mad kings. The royal court adjourned to Maegor's Holdfast a fortnight later for a masked ball celebrating by pretext the Queen's name day. Rhaella herself remained bedridden with fragile health. The ball was for rumor, not revelry. Masks concealed alliances, revealed intents between silks. Ned wore none, pleading northern custom. Better to keep face plain when liars wore painted smiles. Aerys, in a harlequin mask, half white, half black, drifted near the dais where Aerys presided. Jaime guarded the throne but never met Ned's eyes. Rhaegar, costumed as the Merlin King from Dornish legend, conversed with John Connington, whose feathered eagle mask bobbed drunkenly. Ned circulated, listening. Tyrell envoys whispered of reach harvests withheld should taxes rise. A Lyseni spice trader boasted of ships laden with volatile oils for illuminations Aerys might find pleasing. A Mirish lens maker claimed to design mirrors amplifying sunlight to sear ships at sea. Madness bred merchants of mayhem. Near midnight, Varys sidled to Ned, pale eyes glimpsed through mask slit. "A pot set to boil still simmers," he murmured, though lids pressed tight. His grace plans a purge. Lions, wolves, dragons alike. He slipped a parchment into Ned's sleeve. Names marked by the flame. Ned withdrew to alcove. Unrolled list. Jory Castle. Heron the Hull. Even young Myrcella Tully of the Riverlands. Children in Firesong. At top, Prince Rhaegar Darty. He closed eyes. The kettle's lid rattled. Within an hour, Ned convened clandestine council. Rhaegar, Jaime, Barristan, Varys, Lewin Martell, Arthur Dayne. In the White Sword Tower sacred to Kingsguard. Blades of fallen knights lined walls like silent jurors. "Our king intends to cleanse the court with fire," Ned began, passing the list. "He has wildfire stockpiled enough to drown us all. We cannot wait." "Then Tamaru." Jaime swallowed. "Remove the jars, again. The guild hides more outside the city now, under guard. Rossart commands them. Destroying stockpiles buys time but not remedy." Arthur Dayne leaned upon Dawn's pale pommel. "We stand sworn to guard the king's life." Rhaegar's voice trembled. "But the realm too. Father has lost himself to flame. If he strikes, half a kingdom burns." Silence pressed like snow. Barristan's gauntleted fist clenched. "What action?" Ned met each eye. "We must seize the king's person, place him under protective custody, and proclaim a regency. For Prince Rhaegar." Lewin hissed a breath. Jaime blinked. Dayne's jaw tightened. Rhaegar stepped back, palms raised. "Oh, coup branded as rescue. No blood needs spill if we act swiftly." Ned pointed to list. "Aerys plans blood regardless. Choice is whether children's bones blacken first." Barristan's voice cracked like old timber. "If we move, we break oaths. So we stand idle while innocents burn." Ned's words cut. "I will move, oath or no. Those who follow, follow." "Then?" Jaime's laughter startled them, low bitter. "I have long wondered which sin weighs heavier, to kill a mad king or guard him while he slaughters. Tonight I decide." He drew sword, bare inch, then sheathed. "I will stand with Winterfell." Dayne laid hand on Jaime's pauldron, nodding slow. Lewin exhaled. Barristan bowed his head. Rhaegar's eyes glistened. "So be it. We move at dawn." Dawn frost rhymed the Blackwater when winter's cloak cells deployed. Gold cloaks loyal to Harren secured city gates. Guild archers positioned on rooftops overlooking barking sands, where wildfire crates awaited river shipment. Ned donned half armor beneath cloak, sword strapped discreetly. Within Maegor's holdfast, Jaime and Barristan exchanged guard rotations, replacing suspect knights with ones sworn to them. The plan. Arthur Dayne would escort Prince Rhaegar to Tower of the Hand under pretext of council. Ned would summon King Aerys to examine tax ledgers. He still relished counting coin. In Ledger Room, Jaime and Barristan would intercept, disarm, and escort the king to a prepared chamber deep in the holdfast. Secure, comfortable, flame-proofed by masons. A gilded cell, disguised as royal retreat. Meanwhile, Harren's men would seize Rossart and pyromancers, loading wildfire jars onto barges bound north to safe storage at Maidenpool. Varys would orchestrate rumors that the king sought spiritual cleansing, withdrawing from public view. Rhaegar would assume regency at King's request. All in silence. Too many moving parts, Ned thought as he strode colonnade. Yet ice cracked only when stressed. He reached the ledger chamber early. Scrolls lay ready, their margins peppered with fictitious notes to hold Aerys' interest. Jaime arrived, helm tucked beneath arm. "Barristan stations outside," he said. "Connington suspects naught, still abed in wine." Footsteps. Rossart swept in unbidden, robes smelling of pine, Rossart's eyes eager. "The king attends demonstration at midday," he declared. "All jars present, no interference." He noticed Ned's ledgers. "Coin cannot quench dragon flame. Yet coin buys food to feed dragons," Ned replied, feigning calm. Rossart approached records, fingertips stained green. "Madness thrives when men meddle." His tone suggested threat. Jaime shifted hand toward hilt, but Rossart's cloak parted, revealing no weapon. The pyromancer leaned closer to Ned. "Play with winter hand, and you will thaw in dragonfire." He swept out. Ned exhaled. "He senses smoke," Jaime muttered. "A wolf must strike before a fox warns wolves," Ned said. "Advance timetable." Jaime nodded, departed. Heart pounding. Ned sent a silent squire to Barristan. "Commence phase Falcon." Minutes later, Aerys shuffled down corridor flanked by two unsmiling Kingsguard unknown to Ned. Jaime appeared behind them, addressing the king with florid courtesy. Ned stepped from ledger room bowing. "Your Grace graces humble ledgers." He stopped. Something wrong. Aerys's eyes glinted cunning. His robe bulged strangely. Ned's pulse hammered. Jaime saw it too, hand frozen near sword. The king grinned. "Traitors account their own debts." He flung open robe. Green glass glimmered. 6 small wildfire flasks, strapped across waist, fuses braided to a wick in his hand. Time slowed. Barristan shouted. Jaime lunged. Aerys pulled flint. Ned crashed into King's outstretched arm as sparks flew. Wick hissed, sputtered, but Jaime's blade flew. Severing cord. Slash, swift as lightning. Aerys screamed. Rossart's warning. Guards drew steel. Chaos. Ned grappled Aerys. The king clawed like mad cat. Jaime parried guard thrust, kicked man into wall. Barristan wrenched second guard's sword arm, dislocating. Wick smoldered on stone. Ned stomped it out, ankle twisting. Aerys howled. "Kingslayer!" "Spittle!" Sprayed. Jaime froze as epithet branded him. Ned headbutted the king. Aerys slumped, blood trickling from nose. "Bind him." Ned's voice sounded distant. Jaime inhaled ragged, then ripped belt from guard. "Trust king's wrists." Barristan tore curtain to gag. "Hurry." Rhaegar and Dane arrived, swords half drawn. They took in scene. King bound, wildfire flasks clinking on floor. Rhaegar closed eyes once, then spoke. "For the realm," he said. Ned had understood. They carried Aerys, gagged damp, eyes rolling furious, into secret chamber. Maesters awaited with milk of the poppy. Door of black oak closed, sealed by 3 iron bars. Kingsguard took post. Sweat dripped down Ned's temples. Jaime stared at gloved hands as though foreign. Barristan leaned on sword like old man newly burdened. "It is done," Ned whispered. "Not yet," Varys said from shadows. "Now we silence the bells." Outside, King's Landing bustled unaware. But wildfire still waited in Dragon Pit. Rossart still commanded pyromancers. Lords still schemed. Coup begun, not won. Ned straightened. "We move to the pit." Wheel turns. Down. The cobbled climb to Rhaenys' hill felt steeper under armored haste. Heron's watch met them midway. Report grim. Rossart barricaded pit. Pyromancers armed with jars. City watch hesitant to storm for fear of ignition. Ned surveyed setting. Old dome half collapsed. Entrances narrow. Vantage points overlooked by broken arches. Assault risked spark. Jaime stepped forward. "Give me 5 good archers and a squire's ladder. I'll reach rafters, take Rossart from above." Barristan shook head. "Too loud." Rhaegar considered. "I will speak to Rossart. He is loyal to dragons." "Then?" "Not your dragons," Luwin muttered. Ned looked at Harren. "Flood the sewers as planned. We drown their flame." "Water not yet connected," Harren admitted. "Masons still anchor final sluice." Time bled away like candle wax. Rossart might already suspect coup. He could ignite stores out of zeal. Ned found himself recalling the Godswood in Winterfell. Still pool reflecting sky. Water. Dot. Simple. He turned to Ricker and Quickaxe. "Fetch every barrel from the Fishmongers' Guild. Water, brine, ale, piss, anything wet. Form a bucket chain to upper windows. We rain upon dragons before spark lights." Nemsaw. Orders flew. Small folk joined. Fear for city overcame fear of crown. Barrels rolled. Ladders clattered. Archers perched to cover pyromancers. Rossart appeared on parapet, robe flaring, wild eyes. "Traitors below shall blaze," he screamed. Hurling first jar. It shattered on cobbles, flame roaring. Screams erupted as watchers fled. Ned's cloak caught ember. He beat it out. Archers loosed arrows. 2 pyromancers toppled. Bucket chain began. Water showered flame, hissing. Air filled with steam and acrid smoke. Rossart hurled second jar. It burst upon scaffold, burning ladder to ash. Jaime cursed, path cut. Dane raised dawn, sighting arch. He hurled blade like lightning, white steel spinning. It struck Rossart's chest, pinning robe to wooden beam. Pyromancer's shriek echoed pit. Jaime seized, fallen Kingsguard's grappling hook, launched to same beam. Climbed, swift as cat. Water still poured. Flames sputtered. Jaime reached Rossart, yanked Dawn free, then punched Pyromancer's throat. Rossart tumbled, robes flaring green, landing in heap of flame-extinguished muck. Within pit, remaining jars sat on wagons. Jaime waved. Signal clear. Safe. Gold cloaks swarmed, dousing fuses, hauling crates to yard, where Ned ordered them submerged in horse troughs. Smoke thinned, replaced by steam stench and cheers. Above, bells of Baelor's sept began tolling. Eddard tensed. Alarm or celebration? Varys appeared, breathless. Word spreads the king steps down for health. Prince Rhaegar named regent. He smiled thinly. Your winter arrives amid spring. Ned closed eyes. Smelling brine, smoke, sweat. Coup succeeded. For now. Realm still fragile as ice on thawing pond. 2 days later, proclamation read from the throne room. King Aerys, on advice of Grand Maester Pycelle, sought secluded rest to restore humors. Prince Rhaegar would govern as hand of the king pro tempore. The crown prince declined title of protector, styling himself regent. Small folk cheered, bread flowed, taxes eased. Lords measured odds, weighing whether to rally or rebel. In private, Aerys raved in locked suite, tended by maesters who administered drafts strong enough to fell bulls. Barristan kept vigil. Jaime refused to enter, haunted by slur Kingslayer, though king yet lived. Ned visited once. Aerys' eyes, gold-flecked, rolled in sockets. Lips mumbled burnt prayers. A man, not a monster, Ned thought. Pitiable, dangerous still. Council reformed with new faces. Luwin Martell as Master of Laws. Harren the Hull elevated to Master of Ships. Coherys replaced by Lady Mina Tyrell, to oversee coin with reach accountability. Ice cracked, but water flowed, forging new course. Yet rumors spread of northern ships massing at White Harbor. Ironborn raiders spied near Stony Shore. Tywin Lannister's armies drilled. Conspiracies rarely please all. One mist-heavy morning, Ned received Raven from Winterfell. 3 words. Skagosi banners burned. Underneath, cat's hand. We stand ready. Ned strode to window. Blackwater lapped wall, reflecting slate sky. His quiet coup birthed tempest. War still stalked edges. He whispered to ghosts of old gods. "Guide Winter's claw?" Footsteps behind. Rhaegar. "The realm thanks you," the prince said. "The realm tests us yet," Ned replied. "Hold peace while we mend roads, fill granaries, pay men, else rebellion blooms." Rhaegar nodded. Prophecy spoke of song of ice and fire. Perhaps it sings in council chambers, not battlefields. Then Perrault. Ned almost smiled. "Let us keep it so." Deep in cellars beneath the Hand's Tower, ledger titled, "The Reckoning lay open." Caught. Ned dipped quill. Struck through Rossart's name. Ink froze partway. Still tasks. He wrote another column. Aftermath. Under it he listed, "Secure Tywin's neutrality. Quiet, Ironborn. Rebuild trust of realm. Guard children of dragons." He closed book. Candle guttered. Outside, snowflakes drifted again. Unseasonal. Delicate reminders that winter heeded no crowns. He thought of Bran laughing in Winterfell's courtyard, of Cat's steady eyes, of Robb training Grey Wind to heal. He vowed to see them again under safe skies. But tonight, the North's wolf slept in southern den, guarding dragons from their own fire. And though the kettle had cooled, embers still glowed. Eddard Stark tightened cloak, feeling weight of icy cloth. He would watch, he would wait, and he would act again, quiet as snowfall, certain as dawn, until realm no longer trembled on brink of flame. Oh, Kay. A feeble winter sun glimmered across the black water as a brisk wind tugged gulls off their lazy loops over the harbor. Eddard Stark stood on the Red Keep's eastern wall, one boot braced upon a merlon slick with frost. Below, a single cog slipped its moorings and crept into the bay. Its deck piled with sand-caked barrels, marked only by the sigil of the Fishmongers' Guild. Inside each floated a jar of wildfire, the last of Rossart's unsecured hoard. As the vessel cleared the breakwater, Ned traced its wake until morning mist swallowed it. Far down the coast, it would beach at Maidenpool, and hand its cargo to Lord Mooton, who had agreed, behind closed doors and for a healthy purse, to bury the jars in sealed dolomite caverns once carved for Septon cellars. That much, at least, was safe. Snow flurries whispered across his shoulders. The air smelled of salt and soot, the mingled sense of a port city that had nearly burned itself alive. Somewhere behind him the bells of the great sept tolled prime, their echoes reaching the city's highest Aerys and the lowest purlieus of flea bottom alike. The bells bore a lighter tone these days, as if even bronze sighed in relief. Yet it was a thin, hesitant relief, not the full-throated joy a realm might feel after facing ruin and surviving. Too many questions hung like swords. Where was the king? Why did Rhaegar wield the hand's rod? Who truly ruled? Answers existed, but none the small folk trusted yet. Nothing bred rumors like locked doors in Maegor's Holdfast. Ned knew rumors better than most now. He turned from the sea and crossed the rampart walk, cloak snapping. At the stair, he met Sir Jory Castle, helmet tucked beneath one arm. His cousin's brow shone with chill sweat, the kind that came from night patrols ending at dawn. Jory bowed, but did not smile. He rarely smiled these days. "South Post secured," he reported. "No sign of movement from the Alchemists' Guild Hall. The guild masters remain under house arrest. 3 journeymen tried to slip through the Cordwainer's Gate after curfew. Gold cloaks turned them. Any jars found on them?" Jory shook his head. "Nothing but flint and twisted bits of iron. Likely tried to forge new fuses. Have them confined in the black cells and questioned by Lord Lewin. Dorne's prince has a talent for reading truth in silence." Ned squeezed Jory's shoulder. "Rest now. Your men need sleep more than swords." Jory hesitated. "Rest is a luxury, my lord. We can't seal every crack." "True. We dam what river we can and steer the rest." He let his hand fall. "Go on." Jory vanished down the stair while Ned descended toward the outer ward, where frost already melted beneath the tramp of boots. The courtyard lay small beneath towering walls, yet it bustled. Masons hauled quarried blocks on sledges, filling cracks in foundations left by wildfire's tremor. Blacksmiths hammered rivets for the dragon pits, new sluice gate, their strikes ringing like distant thunder. Among them strode Heron the Hull, barking orders. The hulking commander caught Ned's eye, offered a curt nod, and continued. Beyond, wagons queued at the river gate. Each bore sacks of grain stamped with a golden rose. The Reach's lifeline had arrived, courtesy of Lady Mina Tyrell's first maneuver as Master of Coin. She had leveraged her father's bumper harvest to negotiate favorable tariffs, saving the crown coffers thousands while feeding the people. Breadlines moved quickly, and bakers' hearths burned through the night. Small victories, yet crucial. Inside the Tower of the Hand, a fire crackled in the solar hearth. The room smelled of pine and parchment. Ned shed his cloak, sat, and spread before him a stack of letters. Steel claws held each page. One from White Harbor bearing Wyman Manderley's opulent seal. One from Bear Island smelling faintly of tar and spruce. A third from the wall penned by Benjen himself. He broke the last first. Benjen wrote of a rift in the ice beyond the frostfangs that had swallowed 2 ranging parties, of whispers that giants stirred. Unusual, but not alarming. The chill in the ink, however, came from a different note. Northern fishermen had sighted longships off Skagos, painted with kraken sigils, black against crimson sails. The Ironborn prowled, testing tides. Skagosi rebels, if they existed, would gladly clasp iron hands to raid the mainland. Benjen urged caution, and Ned felt the weight of distance. He responded swiftly, sealing instructions to Lord Manderley. Fortify the harbor chain, bar the White Knife, ready the Wolf's Den garrison. The Bear Island letter told a starker tale. Lady Meg Mormont had crushed a small raider band along the coast, but lost 20 spearmen in the clash. Ugly rumors spoke of a new warlord among the Ironborn, one who wielded a warhorn carved from black coral. Ned's pulse slowed. The North did not need another front while its lord lingered in a southern pit of coals. He drafted orders to Maester Lewin. Dispatch ravens to Deepwood Mott, the Rills, and Barroton. Every ship capable of mounting a ram would guard the bight. Shore beacons would flame the moment krakens breached their nets. And he sent coin, Tywin's coin, ironically, northward in locked iron chests to pay sailmakers, fletchers, and levies. Coin could still save blood. A soft rap sounded. Maester Parcel, Parcel's youngest acolyte, entered bearing a silvered tray. 2 steaming cups of mulled wine rattled. Ned gestured him in. Behind the acolyte came Prince Rhaegar, tall, composed, a fur-trimmed cloak draping his shoulders like argent wings. Parcel bowed out, leaving warmth and spice in the air. Rhaegar removed gloves and accepted a cup. You rise before the cocks, Lord Stark. Northmen chase, dawn, to gain daylight. Ned sipped. Cloves stung his tongue. Letters from home. Winter speaks, in many tongues, Ironborn tongues among them. Ned folded the Mormont letter and tapped it on his palm. If krakens scent blood, they will strike while realm adjusts to your regency. Rhaegar set his cup down. His violet eyes seldom betrayed unease, yet today they clouded like sky before hail. We cannot march north without fracturing fragile peace. Lannisters would bristle, Stormlanders suspect slight. We have not the coin or trust yet. We may not need to march, only to promise. Ned leaned forward. Send an envoy. Kevin Lannister perhaps, or Lord Gawain Westerling. Someone Tywin trusts, but who serves the realm first. Task him to escort a royal fleet to White Harbor, bearing supplies in the regent's word that the crown shields the north. Let the kraken see a dragon's shadow. Then, Rhaegar considered. Tywin is no easy ally. He respects debt repaid and force displayed. We've repaid the interest cut and the first tranche on schedule. Ned slid a parchment across the desk. Lady Mina's accounting of repayments. A visible gesture north might satisfy his honor and his vanity in one voyage. The prince traced the figures. You wield coin as deftly as blade. Coin buys blades. Good accounts keep them sheathed. Ned rose. And we have sharper concerns here. Rhaegar sighed. Father's keepers report he calms only when they burn censers of pine resin and hyssop. He mutters of traitors seeping beneath doors. Some nights he wakes screaming the word Kingslayer until dawn. He met Ned's eyes. Jaime hears, of course. How does he bear it? With wine, and drills that dull mind as they sharpen steel. Rhaegar's voice lowered. Barristan fears guilt may drive him one way or the other, to martyrdom or murder. We must not let either occur. Ned clasped hands behind his back. Have the maesters adjust the drafts. Keep the king restful by day, less prone to midnight ravings. He paused. I will speak with Jaime. When the prince departed, Ned donned plain wool and descended to the small yard reserved for the Kingsguard's morning practice. There he found Jaime hacked at straw men, each thrust punctuated by a snarl. Sweat darkened his tunic. Nearby, Ser Barristan and Sir Arthur Dane sparred in slow, measured passes, but Jaime paid them no mind. Ned waited by the water trough. When Jaime finally staggered for drink, Ned offered a skin of watered wine. Jaime gulped, wiped his mouth on a forearm and exhaled. They call me Kingslayer, he said without greeting. Now Kingbinder, perhaps. Names are weightless wind if you plant your feet. Ned leaned against the trough. You saved lives by binding him. I saved myself from being burnt alive. Jaime tossed the skin aside. And yet his screams drill my skull. He would rather roast the world than be contained. He cannot now. The wildfire's beyond his reach. The city watch stands loyal. The lords weigh their purses. The realm yet lives. For how long? Jaime kicked straw. Connington paces the halls muttering of treason. Pycelle totters between groveling and growling. Tywin, 7 take him, writes letters no one reads but everyone fears. And me? I wake thinking I hear glass shatter, the sound of jars. Ned placed a hand on Jaime's shoulder. Walk with me. There are things only a handful know, and we need another hand to steady the load. He led the knight toward the Godswood, speaking low, of skirmishes in the north, of fleets yet unpledged, of the iron-born threat. I need eyes upon the west, he finished. Someone Tywin's messengers trust, someone quick as lightning and unafraid of lions' dens. Will you ride to Casterly Rock as envoy of regent and realm? Jaime frowned, brow creasing in a way that reminded Ned of a younger man yet unburdened by white cloaks or kings ablaze. An on, or a hostage? Both, perhaps, Ned admitted, but also a son. Your father may heed words from your own lips where he would scorn mine. Jaime's gaze drifted to dawn-lit towers. He might heed them, or he might wonder why his son bears tidings from the wolf. And either way, we gauge his intent. A slow breath. Very well, I will ride within the week. But the King's Guard. Barristan will command in your absence, Ned said. And if any scorn you for leaving the king cloistered, remind them he's better guarded by stone and maesters than by swords alone. A wry smile tugged Jaime's mouth. Do you ever tire of burdens, Stark? Only when I dream, and those are rare. Ned squeezed his shoulder, then left him to shade beneath the heart tree, where red leaves whispered of winter secrets. The following noon, a raven from Storm's End arrived, bearing Stannis Baratheon's Stark seal. Its message, stark in both senses, warned that traders out of Pentos swore sell sales gathered at Mire, for purposes unknown, but funded by Lannister gold. Stannis appended neither greeting nor closing, yet Ned trusted blunt facts more than gilded courtesies. If Tywin hired free captains, the envoy trip bore sharper edges. Jaime departed 4 days later with a modest retinue. 10 Kingsguard squires in half-cloaks, 20 gold cloaks for road security, and a chest of ledgers detailing loan repayments. He carried also 2 sealed scrolls, one from Rhaegar inviting Tywin to attend a midsummer council on realm reforms, and one from Ned listing the crown's grain shipments to the Westerlands. A sly reminder that realm hunger reached lion cubs too. When the gates closed behind them, Ned watched dust plume westward. He felt as though he'd loosed a hawk into winter skies, uncertain if it would return unbloodied. That night, lamplight painted long bars across the vaulted ceiling of the council chamber. Lady Mina Tyrell stood at the long table, distributing tablets of beechwood to each counselor. Red wax seals dotted their corners. Lewin Martell reviewed his tablet, then raised keen black eyes. A census. A ledger of the realm's debts, Mina corrected. Every crown owed to every house, guild, or banker. Half our troubles sprout when rumor outraces record. In the Reach, we track every seed sown and reap the coin in gold. John Connington frowned. The crown's purse is its own concern, not the talk of lesser lords. Mina's smile savored lemon and steel. Lesser lords take interest when interest takes their purses. You borrowed 50,000 last year to finance your Griffin's Roost expansions, my lord. I see 3 payments missed. She tapped the tablet gently. Transparency ensures fair renegotiation. Connington's cheeks flushed. Ned intervened. Lady Mina argues that we must know our weight before lifting. House Tyrell has advanced grain, the crown owes gratitude and interest. But coin repaid builds trust. I propose we adopt the Tyrell ledgers as baseline. He looked around. Varys inclined his head. Lewin nodded. Connington muttered assent. Good, Ned said. Then our next step is revenue. Prince Rhaegar suggests a levy on tourney purses. 1 silver stag per 10 dragons of prize, remitted directly to city orphanages and reparations. Lords may preen at tourneys, but let them preen as benefactors. Bow. Connington snorted. Tourney knights will balk. Not if the crown advertises generosity, Lewin replied. Even a peacock likes applause. With that, the council drafted an edict. Pycelle was absent, nursing an ague, but his seals lay ready. By Candle's gutter, they adjourned, and Ned walked Varys across a moonlit cloister. The spider spins widely, Ned said. What webs in Mar tie to Tywin's coin? Varys' soft shoes whispered. A company newly christened the Flamebearers hired 100 mariners, purchased 3 Myrish galleys, and stocked amphorae of naphtha. Their paymaster used golden lions smoothed of mint marks. Naphtha burns hotter than wildfire, less volatile but harder to quench, Ned observed. If Tywin hires seaborne fire, he intends intimidation or distraction, Varys said. Set the narrow sea alight while he rallies banners inland. Ned's breath clouded. Send birds to Dragonstone. The royal fleet must prepare and find names behind the Flamebearer charter. Then it's empty. 8 once. Varys bowed, his robe sleeves fluttering like wings. As he disappeared, Ned wondered if webs caught spiders too. 3 weeks later, joyous horns woke the city. Lady Elia Martell delivered a healthy son at Dragonstone. Prince Aegon's brother, named Viserys. The realm celebrated. Taverns sold drink at halfpence. Bells tolled with real glee. Rhaegar returned from Dragonstone bearing swaddled infant and weary wife. Their litter rolled through streets lined by cheering smallfolk, delighted by babes, rather than banners. Ned walked beside his white cloak, gift from Rhaegar, flapping. Elia's smile shone despite pallor, and the baby's tiny fist gripped nothing yet promised everything. In that moment, Ned glimpsed a future where swords might rust peacefully. But futures fray. The next raven bore grim ink. Jaime's envoy reached Casterly Rock and vanished. The escort found only smashed carts on Golden Tooth Road, ledgers strewn and burned. Jaime's ring lay in the dust, twisted. No blood, no bodies. No ransom note. Just silence. Ned read the report twice. Then he summoned Harren and Riker, ordered swift riders along every Westerlands pass. Ravens flew to Fair Isle, Crakehall, Ashmark. Find the lost party. He sent one scroll to Tywin. Formal concern, request for cooperation. But inside he inserted a hidden strip of vellum, a single sentence in cipher. The wolf and lion share, prey in darkness. Tywin's spy masters would read it. Tywin would know the hand suspected not his treachery, but a third hand. Rhaegar paced the solar. If my Kingsguard is slain, the realm rends anew. Not slain, Ned argued. No bodies. Yet dread nipped. Someone wants suspicion to fall on lions. Could be Ironborn, could be cell sales, or my father's loyalists. Rhaegar murmured, seeking to restore him by sowing chaos. They planned quietly. Send Arthur Dane west with 40 Dorn spears, ostensibly to escort the Princess Arianne's wedding dowry, in truth to scour roads for Jaime. Rhaegar agreed but insisted Dawn remain. Dane carried a plainer blade disguised. In day's light, strategy felt firm. At night, Ned fought nightmares of wildfire igniting roads, of Jaime's corpse nailed to a post. 2 nights later a courier staggered through the mud-gated first cockcrow, clothes torn, beard rimed with frost. He bore Jaime's signet. He had ridden 2 days from the foothills of the crag, where the envoy was ambushed by men wearing black cloaks sewn with a pale blue sigil. A shadow cat on ice. Karstarks? No. The sigil matched none known. The men spoke old tongue mixed with something guttural. They bore around shields of pine laced with iron. Raiders from Skagos perhaps, far from their isle. Jaime, the courier claimed, surrendered rather than pay corpses to wolves. The raider spoke of a king beyond water, who needed steel, not gold. They led Jaime north into the hills. The courier fled through woods, dodging axes, and alone reached safety. Ned's jaw clenched. Skagosi reavers in the Westerlands meant ships along the coast traveling unseen, aided perhaps by Ironborn maps. He wrote to Lady Mage, search every inlet. He wrote to Lord Hoster Tully, close the rivers. He wrote Benjen again. Double rangers along Hornwood's coast watched for black-sailed longships. Yet riding could not free Jaime. Ned gathered Ricker, Quickaxe, and Jory. Ride hard to the crag, he ordered. Take coin, take cloaks with no colors, follow the courier's trail. If the raiders hold Jaime, track them but do not engage. Send ravens, I will come with swords enough. They left on the hour, direwolf badges hidden. Meanwhile, the city simmered. Connington drank deeper, railing at cowardice. Pycelle recovered color enough to question the legitimacy of a Regency Sans council vote. Whispers reached Ned. Bands of faithful led by Septons demanded to see the king, claiming evil magic kept him from light. Rhaegar met them on the steps of Baelor's Sept, cradling infant Viserys, speaking of father's health and mother's pain. The faithful knelt, but Ned saw their unease. That evening, Rossart's nephew, an apprentice alchemist, escaped custody, killing a gold cloak with hidden dagger. He vanished into the city's warrens, fueling fear that wildfire returned. Heron doubled watch. Lewin authorized interrogation of guild members under Dreamwine, gleaning that the nephew sought the last recipe stored in Sept archives before Maker's Wars. Formula for transplanted flame. No one knew more. Ned mandated every apothecary inventory niter and pitch. Barrels of grease were sealed. Export of lye halted. Wary eyes watched shadows for green glints. Spring's first full moon rose, pale as bone. Under its silver gaze, the Red Keep's west wing hosted a banquet, marking the feast of first plow. Lords arrayed in silks toasted harvest hopes. Troubadours plucked harps, singing of fertile fields and dragon princes. Yet tension threaded the hall. Tyrells eyed Connington. Dornish knights eyed Stormlanders. Pycelle sniffed every goblet as though expecting poison. Ned took little wine. He spoke politely to Lord Garth Hightower about lighthouse tariffs, then excused himself to watch the courtyard from a balcony. Wind stirred banners. He listened to the iron hush of nighttime city. Somewhere below, a dog barked thrice, then fell silent. Distantly, waves slapped pilings. For a moment he imagined Winterfell's quiet halls. Hearth's orange glow on Cat's hair. Bran's sleepy murmur about wolf dreams. Longing knifed him. 5 hours would not bridge leagues. Footsteps approached. Varys joined him, a silhouette adrift in candle-lit breeze. Cold air keeps wine from head, he said. Perhaps I should bring whole council here. Varys' smile flashed. They would freeze tongues and swords alike. He rested pale hands on stone. A report from Pentos. The flame-bearer galleys weighed anchor, heading west past Lys. A Taroshi trader claims they bear siege rams and barrels of Talarin oil. Destination? Some say Fair Isle. Others, the Stepstones. Varys' gaze drifted toward dark horizon. But sell sales chase coin as moths candle. Keep eyes on them. Ned exhaled. Any word of Jaime? None beyond your riders. The Westerlands speak of wolves in their hills. Ironic, perhaps. Nanan? Not ironic. Ominous. He departed then, leaving the spider alone amid banners. 2 days later, as sun blossomed red above the narrow sea, a horn call blared from the walls. A single ship with striped sails approached, its deck swarming with sailors in patchwork cloaks. The gate guards prepared scorpions, but the vessel raised a white flag. An envoy rowed ashore, bearing a chest and a letter addressed to the hand. Ned met him in the riverside yard, flanked by armed guards. The envoy knelt, Pentoshi by accent. He presented the chest. Inside lay Jaime's white cloak, neatly folded, unstained. Upon it rested a dagger wrought of pale stone veined with black, its hilt wrapped in walrus leather. No blood-marked blade or cloth. The letter simply read, "Winter's oath is broken. The lion's debt begins. Send not coin but son of snow and dragon, or the sea turns black with fire." No signature, but a sigil etched into the wax. Shadowcat on ice. Ned's stomach iced. They wanted hostages. Which son of snow? Brandon Stark's name was dead. Jon Snow existed only in closed chambers. Perhaps they meant Benjen or Robb, or perhaps they teased by prophecy. He summoned the council. Tension erupted. Connington demanded war. Pycelle wheezed about negotiating through Pentos. Mina Tyrell argued to trace the envoy back by coin. Rhaegar held his infant son and stared at the cloak long mourning. Finally Ned spoke. "They seek to divide us with fear. We shall answer with vigilance. No hostages, no coin. We will retrieve Jaime with swords or strings." He tapped the dagger. "Stone and leather. Skagosi craft. I will sail north." The council balked. "The hand cannot leave," Connington objected. "The city teeters. So it teeters because no one dare anchor." Ned's voice cut. "I will not sit while Kingsguard rot in caves." Rhaegar raised a hand. "Nor shall you go alone. I will dispatch Sir Barristan with 500 Stormlanders. We will requisition the royal fleet under Admiral Estermont." Pycelle coughed. "And the king?" "The king remains under care," Rhaegar stated, gaze unblinking. "Until the realm steadies." That night Ned wrote farewell to Catelyn. A brief note promising return with peace for breakfast. He left the ledger of reckoning open to new pages, quill poised for Jory's hand to script if choices must be made. 3 days later, the royal flagship Starfall unfurled sails of cream and indigo, her sides bristling with scorpions. Ned stood at prow beside Barristan, salt wind tugging beards. Behind them, 11 galleys formed wedge formation, their figureheads painted with dragons and tridents, a show of united houses. Rhaegar remained ashore, lifting visorays to wave. Ilya and baby Aegon flanked him. Bells rang farewell. As gulls screamed overhead, Ned felt weight lift. Chains of council left behind. Ahead lay cold seas, sharp winds, and wolves howling in spray. Duties, yes, but duties he understood. Protect kin, hunt foes, navigate ice and tide. He breathed deep, savoring the north's taste already riding the wind. Their course hugged the coast. At dusk of the second day, plumes of smoke rose beyond an outcrop where an unnamed fishing village once stood. Houses smoldered, charred nets dangled like carrion webs. Landing parties searched and found only footprints, dragging marks where captives were hauled. Spear shafts littered sand. Some tipped with black flint, not ironborn, Ned noted. Black flint belonged to Skagos. He knelt by a broken haft, fingers tracing runes in old tongue. Something about ice claws. Barristan approached. They moved swiftly. A raiding column could cover 60 miles inland by now. "Then we sail to Seaguard," Ned said. Warn Lord Mallister. Muster outriders. Storms battered them next day. Gales that shattered topmasts on 2 galleys, forcing repairs in churning surf. Men toiled through lightning, tying patch sails, pumping bilge. Ned worked beside them, hauling rope until palms blistered. Barristan's cloak soaked through. Yet the old knight never slackened. Such labor forged respect among sailors. In the mess that night, they shared hard biscuits and laughter, calling Ned Stormwolf behind his back. At Seaguard, Lord Jason Mallister welcomed them with wary courtesy. His maester produced a map of recent raids, dots marked from the arbor to the sisters. Ricker's earlier Raven waited. Jaime's captors moved north by riverboat up the Blue Fork. Ned traced their path. They could reach the next marshes within a fortnight and vanish. Jason offered river skiffs. Time pressed. Before dawn, Ned and 100 picked men rode after. Fog choked the river. Reeds rustled with hidden creatures. Some nights they camped in ruined farmsteads. Fires banked low to avoid detection. Owls hooted. Once, arrows hissed from dark. A stormlander fell into water, dead before splash finished. They captured one archer. Skin pale, eyes moon-mad, tongue speaking garbled Norvoshi. The captive raved of a horn that wakes old bones. Ned shuddered. They left him bound for Mallister justice. At the Blue Fork's third bend, they found a shallow grave. 4 of Jaime's squires, throats slit, white cloaks shredded to bandages. Jory buried them with pine branches. Rage simmered. The Skagos tracks veered landward where the river forked. Ned split forces. Half to continue by boat, half to ride parallel along muddy banks. They plunged into sodden woods, horse hooves squelching. Jory scouted ahead, returning with news of campfires under a limestone ridge. That night they crept through underbrush, glimpsing silhouettes around a pit where embers glowed beneath cauldrons. Jaime knelt, wrists bound to a pole, but alive, hair matted with blood. 20 raiders ringed the pit, axes slung, shields painted with shadowcats. One tall warrior blew a horn carved of black coral, the note low, guttural, seeming to shake marrow. Ned's archers notched. Barristan whispered, "Count." On 3, arrows flew. 2 raiders fell, but Hornblower dodged, bellowed a command. Chaos erupted. Axes flashed, sailors rushed. Ned charged, Ice's cousin blade carving air. He cut through fur-padded arms, parried a stone knife, shoved forward. Barristan cleaved space, stride relentless. Jory freed Jaime, tossing him a sword. The Kingslayer, unbroken still, joined fray, fighting with grim focus. The Hornblower squared against Ned. He wore chains sewn from whalebone, eyes rimmed red. He swung a great axe in arcs that hissed frost. Ned ducked, felt wind slice his hood. He stabbed, but the man caught blade on haft, drove knee into Ned's chest. Breath fled. Ice roots filled lungs. The Hornblower raised axe to finish, but Jaime's sword flashed, severing hand at wrist. The horn fell. The raider screamed, blood steaming. Ned thrust upward, ending sound. The remaining Skagosi faltered, then broke, vanishing into undergrowth with eerie silence. Jory pursued but returned with only trampled reeds. Dew hissed on hot blood. They freed 2 other prisoners, a Mallister courier and a fisherman's daughter, both starved but living. Jaime propped against a tree, arms trembling. "Thought I'd end on a pyre," he rasped. Ned offered him water. "You ended in wolf's jaws instead," Ned replied. Barristan found documents inside a leather pouch on the Hornblower. Crude maps of Westeros coasts, marks at White Harbor, Gulltown, and King's Landing. Beside each, a sigil of 3 tapered spirals. Ricker studied them under torchlight. Not Skagosi alone, he surmised. Some greater design. They burned the bodies at dawn. Smoke curling amid cold blue sky. Ned kept the horn, wrapping it in oiled cloth. When he sounded it experimentally, a chill quiver shook leaves. Crows launched an alarm. He vowed never to blow it again. The return journey took 11 days of sleet and manacles. They dragged 2 captured raiders for questioning. At Seaguard, ravens flew ahead. By the time Starfall's masts hoisted sail for King's Landing, the city knew Jaime lived. Rumors painted Ned a savior, a usurper, a sorcerer who bound shadows. The truth, as ever, was duller. Grit, luck, rage. Back in the capital, tensions spiked. Connington seethed that Stormlanders sailed north without his leave. Pycelle pronounced Ned's absence dereliction. Mina Tyrell countered with ledgers. Grain flowed, taxes held, peace endured. But the faith militant petitioned anew, demand to see the king. Claiming the crown's secrecy blasphemed the Seven. They marched to the Red Keep's gates bearing crystal swords, singing hymns. All this Ned learned the night he disembarked. Salt still in hair. He met Rhaegar in the Tower of the Hand's courtyard, where lanterns swung. Prince and Kingsguard exchanged silent embraces. Jaime knelt to Regent, swore redoubled fealty. Rhaegar bade him rise as brother. The realm might yet heal. But as they talked, a blast shook the night, distant yet felt in bones. Lanterns flicked. Ned turned toward the city. Road to the dragon pit flared orange against sky. Wildfire again? No. Flames burned yellow-red. Smoke spiraled. Rhaegar's face drained. Baelor's sept, he whispered. They ran to walls. Below, fire devoured the sept's courtyard. Stone statues cracked. Stained glass windows blew out in glittering rain. Faith militant banners thrummed amid flame. Screams pinwheeled upward. Ned's heart pounded. Who lit the flame? He remembered Rossart's nephew, missing, obsessed with recipes. Horns blared. Gold cloaks rushed. Ned drew breath of smoke-tinged night. The realm balanced still on knife's edge, and tonight, the blade cut anew. He turned to Barristan and Jaime. Rally every bucket brigade, order archers to rooflines, keep sparks from spreading. They sprinted. And Ned thought, as they descended stairs 3 at a time, that quiet coup ended rarely with quiet dawns. Yet dawns came regardless, and with them, another choice, another task, another thread to weave. A wolf does not shy from snow because snow never ends. He simply lowers his head and pushes on, trusting in the long memory of winter and the promise that somewhere ahead lies spring.